twin horns are Russia and China. People actually think I'm speaking about Russia now because it's in the news. I've been seeing Russia come to America since 2014. I've been seeing visions that God would not even explain to me why are Russians in the street harming people and killing people, but that is not the subject here now. Systemic risk, the Lord gave me this understanding because the understanding that I have is borne out, it turns out, by what is on Google. But this is the way He, in His kindness, broke it down for me to grab it. Systemic risk is different from this other risk, he told me, called systematic risk, because I thought that systematic risk is what he meant. People think these two types of risk are the same, but they are not. Systematic risk is where a problem develops in one area because of processes in that area, the way things are done in that area. And then it spoils that area. And then it begins to move to another area to spoil that area. And then the next and the next. And so when systematic risk is at work, it is like watching dominoes fall. So if you have it in one area, if you move fast enough, you can contain it. You can quickly contain it. Systemic risk is different. Systemic risk is where you start to have failure in multiple areas at the same time. And the best example for that was doctors. This is what I was understanding. Systemic illness is where multiple organ failure happens in the same person. You find that a person's heart rate will suddenly fall. You find that a person suddenly has trouble breathing on their own. They need to be intubated. So the doctors are trying to get the breathing apparatus working. They're trying to stabilize the heart rate. They're working with the person's eyes. You're working with the person, they're like, I can't see. And they're like, oh no, his eyesight is failing as well. Many things go wrong at the same time. And once doctors are working with a person like that, very often they know that they have to prepare that person's family for bad news. So systemic risk in an economy is the same. It is the total failure of the money markets, the money systems, the money structures, the money methods, and one day, the money itself. This is usually caused by a combination of factors that cannot be fixed. Why is this? Because in systemic risk, you are dealing with the failure of the entire system at a same time and at a pace that outstrips available knowledge, skill, resources, or methods to curb and stop the contagion that has started burning. And so, because everything is connected, when things are healthy and working in the system, all parts of the body flourish. All parts of that whole, the economic whole, we're talking about our country, flourishes. But because all things are connected, it means that when disease or destruction gets into even one part, the whole part, when Ebola gets into one part of a person, it does not stay localized. Even if you catch it from a cut under your fingernail and you're exposed to the contagious blood, it doesn't stay in the finger. It is going to enter your bloodstream and wash all through you. When something is systemic, the whole is affected at once. And because everything is connected, everything becomes unstable, sick, and there's no way to isolate the bad part. And this, as we are looking, we are seeing how one bank just dropped off the radar into oblivion and was wrapped up. I think they put it in sequestration. I've been talking about this for years, that we will see this process of how people will just be bundled up and carried away because they have the contagion, but it's not working. Other smaller players are starting to fall. They are putting out videos, these weird, gleeful YouTubers that seem extremely happy that this is happening, as if this is their moment to shine, that people's savings might be wiped out. But anyway, they're putting out information that smaller credit unions now and smaller banks are in trouble. And of course, they're not trending at the top because they're not Credit Suisse and they're not this SVB bank that literally just fell off the rim of the world. And so the whole ecosystem suffers because the rot starts to move through the system. And the Lord was telling me that this is something like fatal error. When someone gives you this little USB, the little memory stick, and tells you, oh, there's information, the information you asked me for is on here, and you say thanks, and you take that thing, but that person has a virus on his home computer, you connect it to your system, and what is in there just spreads through your system. And the computer people know that some of these viruses are so dangerous that they can wipe out all the data on your computer in like 30 seconds or 1 minute. Just wipe the entire hard drive and your machine is completely empty. And then this is what the Lord said. The banks will take one another down and everything else with them. Supermarkets, stores, small grocery stores. This is the green grocers. The guys outside that just have oranges and beets and they don't have a store. They set up these little kiosks and you buy what you need from them as you go. Small grocers, schools, the Lord said. I can't tell you how schools will be affected, but maybe someone knows. Credit lenders, real estate, property brokers, small business, big box franchises. This is the big stores that they have everywhere, like Target, like McDonald's, like Wendy's, the stock market, and last but not least, Joe Biden. Joe Biden will lose support on the back of this crisis, and there will be a great political crisis at the same time as a financial crisis in America. He will fall as a result of this crisis and be made a scapegoat and a patsy for what is already created behind the scenes. Impeach President Biden. You will see this on banners all across America. It will be trending for a president who, despite all his public failures thus far, has avoided any major political blowback. Despite all the things he has been blamed for and managed to escape, this crisis will put the nail in his coffin. So we don't live in a vacuum. We can see that the president is already a little frail. These things are not brand new. This is not breaking news. We can see that there's been pushback, that he's not fit. Many people feel that America is not in a strong leadership position and that she's not being respected by international powers. And many people say that this is because we're starting to fall in relevance as a direct result of the fact that we're not presenting strong leadership to the world. And we can't deny that people are not really coming here for talks and they're not really coming here to interact politically, but they sure are visiting each other out there, aren't they? They sure are flying to each other's countries, especially people that America might consider hostile countries or definitely not true allies. Instead of coming here for discourse or things like that, they're visiting each other and they're having very much visible unity out there. And when I saw this, I said to the Lord, God, you are true. Because what God said 2 years ago or 3, I think it was 2020 when I brought the prophecy ascendancy, God said that people will start to ignore America, that America will start to decline in her political leadership and her political relevance. And people will be much more interested in cross-border relations with themselves. And they will also start to perceive Russia and China as people to strike deals with. Russia and China as people to go and deal directly with. And I think that people have started to make deals with those two countries to get resources like natural gas and oil in their local currencies. So they're not using the dollar, even though there was a headline the other day that says, even with the banks shaking, the dollar is the only game in town. It appears that reality does not agree with that propaganda headline. And remember that I have said, since I shared the 2018 dream that is called Money Down the Drain, that propaganda is going to swing into effect in this country. They have been telling us that inflation was transitory, but I can tell you my wallet does not agree that inflation is transitory, because the price of beef in New York City is a crime against humanity. So it is not transitory. It was here in 2021, which is when I first noticed it. In the first quarter of 2021, the prices of everything became steeply hiked. in a neighborhood that up to that point had been pretty well balanced price-wise. It was like these little gnomes went and repriced everything within a 4-mile radius of my house. And it has not been transitory, unless transitory means here